Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to deliberate upon the most talked about matter under GST these days. You guessed it right. GST departmental audit it is. We all know that GST authorities have started already sending notices for audit of assessees to ensure correctness of GST compliances. And on the panel discussion today, we have Mr. Hira Gange, who's a senior partner at Madhugar Hira Gange and Associates with more than 3 decades of experience into IDT. We have Mr. B.S.V. Murthy, who's a retired IAS officer and has been a member of CSTAT with more than 45 years of experience in IDT. And Ms. Rupa Nayak, who has more than 15 years of experience into IDT, and she is a joint author of several books on GST and IDT. So they will be answering some of the most relevant questions on the topic. And they are the authors of a best-selling book called GST Audit Handbook from Departmental Perspective. So Mr. Murthy, let's start with you. Since you have been an ex-CSTAT member for a long time, I think you will be the right person to answer the questions on the things happening at the department side. So first question for you, Mr. Murthy. What do you think are the major risk criteria or the parameters for audit by the department?
Good evening and welcome to, thank you, Nikita. The risk management and risk criteria for the first time was introduced in the department light somewhere in 96, 97. And I was one of the authors of the draft audit manual at that time. And we have brought in the concept of not auditing everyone, but selective audit. That concept was brought in. And this risk, the audit manual, present GST audit manual, proposes to continue that system. In fact, if we see the manual, it says that DG Audit and the Directorate General of Analytics and Risk Management together will decide the parameters for selection of units for audit, and they will communicate a list of units to be audited to every audit commissionerate in the country. And each audit commissionerate has to audit those units, and they are also free to select another 20% or 20%, another 20% based on the local risk parameters. If you see the audit manual gives the local risk parameters, which are numbering about 39, but we do not have a single risk parameter which is going to be adopted by the central authorities for selecting the units. But the question is whether these risk parameters, how far they will affect the professionals and the units. When we go into that, we find that the audit manual also speaks of accredited assessees, accredited units, which are known for compliance with the GST law and which are recognized as good assessees, we can say. In those cases, the audit manual says they will be audited once in 3 years. That means every unit will be definitely audited once in 3 years, and others which are not accredited may have to undergo audit in less than 3 years also. Once we see this, the maximum period you may be free from audit, if you are very, would be about 3 years. Now you see the law relating to short collection or non-collection of taxes. 4.5 years is the period, normal period, where there is no offense committed, no fraud, no misdeclaration. Even if it is a genuine mistake, either by the department or by the party, the period is 4.5 years for issue of show cause notice. And if it is fraud and misdeclaration, more than 6.5 years. In such a situation, naturally, every audit, whenever it is done in less than 4 years, the entire period will be covered for the purpose of issue of show cause notice. Therefore, in reality, the risk of audit is there only for the assessees and not for the government, because government is not risking anything. They have said once in 3 years we will audit. If you are a good fellow, we will audit once in 3 years. Otherwise, you may have to undergo less. This is what, that is why we are not going into the each of the criteria, what may be the criteria at which the people at the center may adopt, even though we can go into it. But I felt that it is not necessary, because ultimately even the best unit, most compliant unit, will have to undergo audit once in 3 years. So therefore, the risk criteria, more than the risk criteria, you have to be prepared mentally and physically and record wise for audit at least once in 3 years.
All right. So how does the department actually select an auditee, and how do they do that?
No, they have already said that in the GST audit manual. The Directorate General of Analytics and Risk Management and the DG Audit will select the units and communicate it to the audit commissionerates, and they can select another 20% under local risk parameters. That I have already covered.
Sure, sir. Right. And since we all are aware of the fact that department has come up with an audit manual to guide the assessees through the audit procedure, so how is the book that you all have authored different from the audit manual issued by the department? What are the major USP points?
Surprisingly, when I went through the GST audit manual, I found that it is very brief. It gives only examples of walkthrough, some trend analysis, some ratio analysis. It does not give all the details. In fact, the officers, if we saw some of the notices issued by the department, which required so much of information, that means the audit, it is not all of it is not covered in the audit manual. So what happens is the department may cover it up by training the officers separately. And based on the experience of the officers in GST work, they may be able to identify which are the new areas to be seen. Therefore, by going through the GST audit manual, it may not be possible for an assessee to find out what may be seen by the department. That was one point. And the second point was, even if there is no proper training, the departmental officers themselves may not be up to the mark when they do the audit. We are finding that problem even now when we see the quality of SHOCA notices, adjudication orders and other things, because the training plays an important part and we don't know to what extent it will come. Therefore, we thought there should be a handbook which will be more detailed. If we see the handbook which we have prepared, it has detailed internal controls, detailed checks which are to be conducted, and it is from the department's perspective. And another thing is, it also discusses what is a trend analysis, what is ratio analysis, how does the internal evaluation has to be done in detail, how to decide what is a good internal control system, what is not a good control system, because according to the GST-AM, the officers have to decide whether the internal control is good or not. They have to specifically state that also in their report. Therefore, what we have tried to do is, we have tried to give details of kinds of trend analysis, ratio analysis, analysis of financial reports, and analysis of various reports submitted, prepared for other departments, and also compliance with other statutes. So we have tried to cover as many areas as possible so that it will be useful for the professionals who are going to prepare for the audit. They may be in the company, they may be taking outside help, professionals who are going to prepare the taxpayers for audit, and also the departmental officers who are going to conduct audit. Objective is to reach out to all these people and give more information readily available. This is the objective of this book.
That's great, sir. Thank you so much for sharing the insights. Coming to you, Rupa. So what is the actual difference in the approach of department while conducting a GST audit in comparison to the erstwhile excise service tax or VAT audit?
Okay. Nikita, good evening, first of all, and thanks to you. If I had to look at what are the differences between the earlier excise or the service tax and the present GST audit which is being there. Of course, we know that the service tax audit was under Rule 5A of the service tax rules. And if you look under excise, it was under Section 14A and AA of the Central Excise Act special audit which was there. One thing is, certainly now there is a guideline which is in place in the GST law for audit. In fact, the term of audit itself has been defined, and it sets out that it is the examining of the records, returns, documents which are furnished by registered person under GST Act or any other law. And what is the purpose? It is apparent to verify the correctness of the turnover which is declared, the taxes paid, the ITC availed, the refund which may be claimed, so on and so forth. And the entire thing is done to assess the compliance of the SSC with the Act and the requirements which have been set out there under and the rules. Obviously, there are certain also prescribed forms which have been put in place when we look into the GST law vis-a-vis the past, wherein it says, even before conduct of the audit is done, it has to be informed to the registered person by a notice 15 working days prior to the doing of the actual commencing of the audit. So that form has been prescribed, and that prior information has to be given by a notice 15 working days in advance. And also very, very significant for the SSCs is that the audit should be completed within a period of 3 months from the date of commencement, which would be there. This is unlike the past regime, again, once again, wherein they are prescribing in the Act itself that it cannot be dragged on and on for months and years together as we have experienced in the past. So it says 3 months is the period given. And again, very significantly, on conclusion, the proper officer has said that he has to inform the findings in a prescribed form ADT2 within 30 days of the concluding thereof. So these are some of the key points which could come to mind as far as the GST audit vis-a-vis the earlier audit is concerned. Can we take the next question?
So, Rupert, is generally experienced that the first audit of an entity forms the basis for subsequent audits and demands, right? So, hence, it is of utmost importance that all registered persons are fully prepared for GST audit. So, how can SSCs prepare themselves for GST audit?
Okay. Coming to preparing for audit, I would say, well prepared is as good as half done. Like they say, well begun is half done. So well prepared would certainly contribute to ensure a very, much better experience as far as SSC is concerned of the audit. So first and foremost, one point which can come to mind is the SC should look at the audit notice which has been issued by the officer, see if that officer has been empowered or authorized by the commissioner in this regard for the purpose of conduct of an audit. Also, once this notice comes, seeking also for the certain information and the documents which would be given as an annexure to this notice, reply to this departmental communication in time. What happens is some of the SSCs, they may be so caught up in the day-to-day business and its operations and running, they may not be in a position to actually respond in time. So what we do suggest is that this reply also may be sent well within the timelines which have been there, and wherever there is a lot of documents, information which needs to be collated, put together, maybe relating to 1 year, it could be say 17, 18, it could be relating to 2 years, 17, 18, 18, 19. The SSC would do well to seek the sufficient time from the audit team which is there for the purpose of audit. Ask for an extension, it could be a week or 10 days, but in that same letter, wherever possible, while providing the documents and the information which may be readily available, also ask for time if there may be really some issues for providing the information. The key resources of the organization employees may not be available to locate and provide the details and the information, so ask for time. One more thing is, yes, while cooperating with the department, certainly ensure that the relevant documents and information are getting submitted under a covering letter. This also helps the SSC to keep a track of what all are the informations or the details which have been called for, what has been provided, and also keep submitting and take an acknowledgement on that, what all has been submitted by the covering letter. It could be something like the returns, it could be the ITC register which is getting submitted, some recos which may be getting submitted, of the tax payable to paid, as well as the ITC which was availed to the 2A credit which was reflected, etc. So also very, very important becomes that they should find the right person who will be interacting with the audit team. So the SSC has to ensure that the employee or whoever else who's part of the organization should be well versed in the GST compliances, should be a person who is knowing in depth what all are the compliances which are there, which are required, and what is specifically called for that particular organization in the context of GST. Why? Because sometimes what may happen is that the person, if they do not know about or they have not been handling the GST compliances, then they may end up giving something which is either incomplete or incorrect, and that may actually not be required, not called for. So one more thing is, internally they can do a quick review or a check wherein whatever the taxes they may realize they have missed out. There may be some clerical errors, some tax liability was there on account of some, services which were supplied by the entity, taxes missed to be paid. No problem, go ahead and discharge the liability with whatever interest if it is applicable to that extent. Also, there may be some reverse charge which may also be got missed out, say legal services missed to pay the liability. There was some error in the computations. So now never mind, go ahead, discharge. So set the house right before the department is coming in or commencing the audit. So that, to the extent possible, everything is more or less aligned and in line with the requirements which are there under the law. And also very significant, if any voluntary payments of taxes are made, ensure that that is being communicated to the department by way of a letter. Again, a covering letter to the jurisdiction office as well as to the respective audit. Also, you can inform to the team that these have been the voluntarily paid taxes and attach the workings for that. And also while seeking the waiver of the penalty in this regard. Again, very important, see were there any other parallel audit or investigation which had been done for the very same period, and if so, make a kind request for waiver. And again, very, and the most important is see that in the time which is left or the time gap which is left before the department comes for an audit, get a pre-audit GST review done by a very thorough GST professional, to see that if there are any gaps, any missed out, short payments, non-payments, wrong credits taken, all the compliances could be done on a voluntary basis before the department comes. And to that extent, the SC's interest is safeguarded, because remember, if subsequently if these points come up during audit, they could lead to a demand along with interest and penalty. So that's what I would like to say, Nikita.
Thank you so much, Rupa, for the useful answers. Coming to you, Mr. Hira Gange. So for SSCs, it will be the first time that GST audit is going to be carried out by the department, and the registered person would be clueless about the modus operandi of the department in analyzing the documents of the registered person. So can you share some suggestions with the viewers on the pre-audit review that SSCs can undertake to better prepare themselves with the upcoming GST audit?
Yes, thanks, Nikita, and viewers. I think Rupa has covered more or less that question. That question has been answered, but I'll try to add a bit of value on that. When we look at this pre-audit verification, as we say, what we would be looking at is to see that the errors which are there in every system. Remember that the GST law is a new law. It has been changing frequently. Nobody can be expected to know when the changes happened and with what impact, what could be the impact of that change. So if I look at my experience of now 31 years in doing various audits, starting with excise audit, I always say that the errors, common errors are common, and these errors could be in various ways. The first common error could be a conceptual error. I have carried forward VAT thought process into GST, but GST is a separate animal, I would say, as compared to the VAT or the service tax or central excise, though GST borrowed many of the concepts. So first, I need to see my conceptual understanding. Unlike in finance, GST has a lot of transactions which are attracting the tax where there is no consideration. And also the ITC, which is a very big component of any audit. Any SSC who is paying, say, 1 crore of rupees of GST, he or she will be also availing credit to the extent of 3 crores or 4 crores. Therefore, the ITC becomes very important. So the first point is conceptual understanding of the levy. Very clear understanding on the ITC because it's such a big component. You may also get some valuation issues. there is a concept called place of supply where many people make mistakes. Also, in service tax, we had centralized registration. In central excise, you had factory-based registration. Now here we have a federal method. So if I have 20 locations in India, all 20 locations will be subject to audit, but there'll be only one financial statement. So marrying the financial statements to the need of audit is also something which is very critical to be done before the audit. And these are conceptual. Then there are systems. What about the systems? What type of system errors are there? Because there is a tendency to repeat errors. Sometimes I make a mistake and that mistake continues for years together. We have to ensure that these type of system errors are not done. And because this will be repetitive, even if it is small amount, if it repeats 10,000 times, that becomes a significant amount. The last bit of this could be transactional. Because of the nature of the industry, there could be different notifications applicable, concessions applicable. There could also be a substantial amount of the business needs. For example, in the auto industry, they are sending out molds. If you're looking at MNCs, they may have a lot of transactions with their parent. They may also be a services company which is providing a lot of services. Some of them, they may be receiving foreign exchange, but it will not be exempted just like that. There may be a liability even if I'm receiving foreign exchange. On the other hand, there may be no liability under reverse charge even if I am paying foreign exchange. So these aspects of law, common errors as we call in each of the parts, especially in the classification, could be causes of concern. So if we are doing a pre-audit, first we would look at the entire systems. We would look whether there are any conceptual errors. Then we will look at whether between entities there is cross-charge. Many entities are not doing cross-charge. Some of them are mixing up cross-charge and ISD. So these are all the low-hanging apples which we can do in a pre-audit, correct it so that when the department comes, there is nothing much for them to find out. A good auditor actually will come to a point where the department audit may take place for a week, and at the end of it, they'll say, give us 1 or 2 points so that we can report something. And next time onwards, that audit is hardly conducted for a day or two because the SSC is compliant. This is the advantage of a pre-audit which can be done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hiragange. So we advise the assessees to take GST departmental audit with utmost seriousness and devote time to ensure that you're fully prepared for this upcoming tornado. The book, GST Audit Handbook from Government Perspective, contains useful insights into the practical do's and don'ts while the audit is being conducted. So thank you so much, Mr. Hiragange, Mr. Murthy, and Ms. Nayak for joining this informative session and sharing the insights. We hope all the viewers found this session useful and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Keep
Bye.
Thank you so much.